Welcome to the Confessions Podcast. I'm Cindy Wagman.
And I'm Jess Campbell. We're two former in-house nonprofit pros turned coaches and consultants to purpose-driven organizations.
After years of building up our separate six-figure businesses from scratch, we've thrown a lot of spaghetti at the wall and have lived to see what sticks.
We're on a mission to help other nonprofit coaches and consultants looking to start or scale their own businesses past the six-figure mark by pulling back the curtain.
Whether you're still working inside a nonprofit and thinking of one day going out on your own, or you've been running your consulting business for years, you understand that working with nonprofits is just different. We're giving you access to the business leaders who serve nonprofits as their clients. You know, the people who truly get it.
No more gatekeeping, no more secrets. This podcast is going to give you an inside look at what running a successful nonprofit coaching and consulting business looks like. Basically, we're asking people how much money they make, how they get paid, and what has and hasn't worked in their businesses.
Listen in as these leaders share their insights, their numbers, and the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to building a nonprofit coaching or consulting business. We're going to empower you to make the power moves that give you the income and freedom you set out to create from day one.
You ready? Let's go. We're so pumped you've tuned into the Confessions Podcast, where we're pulling back the curtain on all things nonprofit coaching and consulting. To keep things super fun, we're doing a giveaway to celebrate our launch.
Woohoo! We've rounded up our 4 favorite business goodies to help you build your business. To enter, all you have to do is share your favorite episode on social media, tagging outintheboons_ and cindywagman.com_coaching.
Or DM us a screenshot of your subscription, rating, or review.
The giveaway ends on September 30th. Good luck. Hey, Jess.
Hey, Cindy.
I can't wait to share with our audience today's guest, Rachel Bearbower, who I would say is like another one of our business besties.
I mean, she's kind of everyone's business bestie.
I
I feel like Rachel has that ability to just befriend and welcome in everyone.
Yes. And Rach has been sort of, I want to say quietly, but it's not quietly, but diligently working on building her program, her membership over the last number of years. I think probably started a little earlier than a lot of people. And, you know, this is such a great conversation to start thinking about how to scale, how to go from one-to-one to one-to-many, and what you need to think about in the process.
Totally. She really lets us in on her business and holds nothing back. The good, the bad, the ugly, the really super duper hard. What really came out for me in the conversation is how her membership might be surprising to some listeners in terms of why she keeps doing it, because it's not necessarily like maybe what people expect. And I'll just like keep it vague like that.
Surprising to listeners, and
yes.
I think surprising to us. Like we often talk to Rachel. The three of us have like our own little mastermind, and we talk about our business decisions. And I think that even with that, we've never really peeled back why she continues to work on the membership. Not that she wouldn't, but just like what goes into those decisions. And it's so important to remember that like we all have our own checklist of things that are important. And that is so critical to building a business that you love.
So if you are a nonprofit coach or consultant listening in and just curious about starting from ground zero to what it looks like running a business several years later, to someone who wants to make the transition from one-on-one work to one-to-many, specifically through a membership, to what it takes to get visible. She went deep into all of those kinds of tactics she's been using to grow her audience. This is going to be such an interesting listen for you.
All right, here's our interview with Rachel. Hey, Rach.
Hello, it's good to see you too.
Yay, Jess and I are so excited for this conversation. So thank you for joining us. The best.
Obviously.
So we're going to dive right in and, get to the juice of the conversation, because that is what this podcast is all about. So as we tell our listeners, who are you and what is your business? What do you do?
Yeah, well, who am I? Gosh, don't we all wear a ton of hats, as much as we try not to, maybe. But I'm a small shop. I am a founder and CEO. I'm a previous founder and executive director, and I'm a trail runner turned farmer and living in the Midwest and living my best life with my three pups and BFM, boyfriend Mike. And yeah, so that is me.
And tell us specifically, what is your business and what is the main program you run?
Yeah, so my business is Small Shop Strategies, which really was designed out of an idea after being an executive director, feeling like I didn't have the resources I need that were tailored to me as like a two person shop. And so I created a community of executive directors of small shops. It's called the Productive Executive Director, and I focus a lot on systems. So I stick out a little bit in the nonprofit consultant realm.
And I love that because you have one of the only communities I've seen online specifically for that demographic, which, as you know, as someone that sat in that seat, it's a unique position where you really want to be around people who get it. So if we can just dive into the next part, what's your business model and specifically, how do you get paid?
Yeah, so this is a great question because it changed recently. So when I started my business, I was like, I'm going to, we all have iterations of our business as we get into it and learn more, but I started out really thinking I was going to design a course. And so I guess I designed a course and realized okay, the content is good, but it's actually the conversations that we're having around the content and learning from each other that was incredible. And so I quickly pivoted and created a membership model, which has been, I know we will get into the specifics of it, but just lights my soul on fire. The incredible conversations and community that has been built around this. And while there still is the curriculum, there's also this community aspect. And then I also do some other pieces because, which we'll also probably get into, but the membership model is really, really fascinating, really interesting. And so I have created the membership model, but also added additional pieces as I have gotten to know the executive directors and learned the different additional services that they need.
Before we jump into all the nitty gritty on your membership, can we just go back to what you said just a second about creating a course? I want to know, why did you want to create a course? I think a lot of nonprofit coaches and consultants get to a place in their business where they're frankly burnt out of trading time for money. And so courses seem like the next great thing, but there's a lot of challenges and hardship with that too. So I'm just curious, why did you consider a course before pivoting to your membership?
I think I thought it was going to be the best way to get information out there. And I knew that one-on-one services was not necessarily my jam. I do still do one-on-one services, but I could not make that my entire business model. And I also knew that there were very specific pieces of my lived experience as an executive director that I knew I needed to provide. I also realized I was having that same conversation over and over and over again. And so I was like, okay, let me get this into, some sort of platform. And my idea was actually to do it live with masterminds. And then the pandemic hit, and the ball was rolling. I was bringing people in, and then pandemic hit, and so it all went online. And yeah, so I have thoughts on courses because I think that they are are beneficial, but there's a lot of boundaries that you need to put around them for them to actually be successful.
And you mentioned sort of the membership lights you up, which I love. And a conversation that the three of us have been having sort of IRL is, how do we figure what that one to many looks like as we do grow and figure out that we don't want to trade time for a service anymore? So tell us a little bit about beyond, it sounds like you love showing up live and you love creating community, but are there other considerations that made a membership model really stick out to you? And what does that look like financially? Like, I think financial considerations are really important too. How has that shown up for you in building a membership and keeping, like, Jess and I would probably agree, it's a lot of work. You're there always for your community, and it can't be easy. So tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I think the question I skipped over is, how do I pay myself? And I had a very interesting last couple of years, because I have spent all of my time, energy, money, all of it into building a community. So and when I say like spent all of my time, money, and energy, it's marketing this membership. And what I realized at the end of last year, like, I have not been making enough to survive, like, based just on the membership, which was devastating. It was devastating because I knew at the very beginning of this membership that it was working, and it was incredible, and it was just amazing, special thing that had been created. But I wasn't making money, which at the end of the day, I have to be able to pay rent, pay groceries. Like, you have to pay yourself. And I wasn't. I actually lost money last year, which you can't do that. And that's, for as hard as I worked and as much time and effort I put into it, like, I couldn't do that. So I really had to take a look at what I was doing, and I had to completely shift my business model. And so what I did is I looked at kind of everything else that I was doing, and decided that a workshop I was doing, I would then send people into the membership, kind of have a funnel, or have open the membership up and allow people to join. But I wasn't making the membership my sole income. I really had to diversify. And by what I did with that is did some one-on-one coach, or I'm doing one-on-one coaching. I am doing done for you services, some strategy calls, different things like that allow for more income to be made. But then really where I am getting most of that business for those coaching clients, or for those strategy calls, are with the members in the community, which I was like, oh, right. Like, I have built this huge, this relationship, this trust with them. And so of course, like, that's a natural, like, warm lead. And the opportunities that have happened because of that have been great. So I don't know if I actually answer the question, but really, I just shifted. Like, I'm not spending a ton of time marketing the membership. I am spending more of my time actively, trying to get coaching clients and things like that, which come in a lot of different ways, but that also comes from nurturing and storing the community. So.
And it's something, what I love about that, it's almost like a product stack, right? We think of tech stack, and like, I know you know this, right? Because you know tech well, but it's all integrated, right? And each piece has its own part, but it's all stacked up together. And I think what you've been building, and I wanted to just mostly to emphasize this, because I know that so many of us look and this is why we created this podcast, we look at all these other business owners and like, they have a course, they must be making so much from their course, or this is their signature thing, and they must be like making all this money from their one to many. And some of it is quite profitable, but usually it's not the only thing they're selling.
Yeah.
But what I think is so great about what you just spoke about is that you're not off there selling all these different things, that your products are in alignment.
Yeah.
And that they're serving people, the same people at different parts of their journey. And I think that is so important for us as business owners and our own like mental health and well-being. Can you talk a little bit about how you found that alignment and like that moment, that aha?
Well, I think what's also important to kind of stick out is that what works in maybe one quarter doesn't work in the next quarter. And what works for one organization doesn't work for another organization. So like from where I was 3 years ago to where I am now is very different. And I have had to continually evolve and change and pivot and get clearer and clearer on my message. I think that a couple of things that I did that really, really helped is I got very, very specific about who I support, because then the exact people knew how to find my program, and it wasn't super vague and general. And and as I continue to focus more on the systems side, and while there's still aspects of leadership and fundraising, everything that I am doing within the membership and within things that I teach live or kind of in a more general space is all about the ways to be more efficient and effective with your time, and getting back to like, are you doing too much? Do you have your goal set? Do you have a plan? So I'm just reiterating the same messages over and over and over again, sometimes with different flavors or different topics, but it's the same core pillars that I'm teaching.
Can we do some context setting? So for the listeners tuning in, what is your price point of your membership? What has that evolution been? Like, where did you start versus what is it priced at today? How many members do you have?
Yeah.
What is your retention rate? Like, if we could just do some context setting, because I think that will then spur into some other questions I'm sure people and us are curious about.
Yeah, totally. Well, I started out at $39 a month for my membership. Quickly increased that. It is there's been several iterations, all with nines. And so we're nines and sevens. So I think we are at $97 a month for the membership. And I think something that's important is I got very clear on how long people should plan to stay in there. So that's another piece of the membership puzzle. But yeah, the membership, I suggest people are in the program for 12 months at $97 a month. I also only open it up a couple times a year, and we actually just wrapped up the big opening that I do each year. But let's see, it really ebbs and flows how many people are in the program. I actually didn't open Productive ED up until July, so it kind of started to dip a little bit more, but we're usually around 80 to, or I would say between 70 and 80. So we're sitting right about 80, 85 right now, I think. My goal is to get to 100. That's my goal. We'll get there, but
yes, you will.
I see, some of these other programs that have hundreds and thousands of members. And I think what's different about this program and what I love about keeping it small is that there's this really intimate feeling, and people are really getting to know each other. And I never, I didn't know what to expect. And it's been really cool to see how the relationships and the community that has formed without me and with other people within this community, and how they lean on each other and support each other. And it's beautiful, really beautiful.
Awesome. I want to ask about two things. One is like launching, but I want to come back to that because first I want to ask about the experience of increasing your pricing. That is something that I think is terrifying for so many people, especially because in the nonprofit sector, we've been taught that price sensitivity is like the biggest decision-making factor. How was that? Tell us about what that experience was like and like break it down. I'm guessing you can go from 39 to 97 overnight or in one decision or one increase. So what was that like?
Yeah. So I think I went from like 39 to 59, like immediately. And then, because, you start doing the math and you're like, oh, I'm making like $4. Cool. Yeah, I should probably increase that. And then it was $79 for about a year. I actually don't have a problem increasing my prices. That doesn't bother me. I think I'm trying to be really sensitive to the small shops that I am serving and trying to find a price point that makes sense for them, that allows them to feel good about what they are receiving, as well as being able to fit it into their professional development budget, or I know a lot of my clients are paying for it themselves. So I'm trying to find that like happy medium of like what is working. The value of what they are getting versus what they are paying is tremendous. And it is like probably a $297 a month program, but I do want to make sure that it is affordable for these organizations. But one thing that I was doing, I was doing scholarships because I was like, oh, nonprofits, this is great. And what I found is there's a real need for buy-in. The people who receive, I have given 20 scholarships over the course of small shop or of productive ED, and I've only had three members truly take advantage of the opportunity. And being able to provide scholarships was something was really important to me. But what I found out is that there still needs to be buy-in. And if there isn't buy-in, then it's really easy to just not participate, which is, I've spent a lot of time and I put a lot of heart and soul and work into this. And if you're not going to show up, then okay.
All right, Rach, we're here to do our rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay, question number 1. What is your favorite tech tool?
Oh, I have 2, no doubt. ConvertKit, obsessed with my email marketing, and Loom, best invention ever.
I agree. What do you like to drink first thing in the morning?
Ooh, if we're being honest, it's a protein shake because I'm starving. And the first thing I have, but I also love my coffee.
What flavor is your protein drink?
Chocolate, the easiest to get down.
And I know, like me, you're a fan of all things Enneagram, personality tests. What are you?
I am a 3 wing 2 in the Enneagram. No idea in Myers-Briggs. 3 wing 2, pretty on point. And I'm a Leo.
The lion. Okay, cool. Thanks for playing. I'm so glad you said that because that was the question swirling around in my head around if you've noticed a difference in participation for folks at that $39 level compared to the $97 level. And you just hit it. And I think there's so many nonprofit coaches and consultants who come from the nonprofit sector who have a scarcity mindset around money and, say things like, well, I'm not in it for the money. And then are over here.
I am in it for the money. Like, yes. Do I need to make billions?
T-shirts.
And, no, but
you need to cover your expenses. Yes.
I need to cover my expenses. I need to put money in my 401k. I need to have insurance. I need to have a comfortable life.
And
I'm in it for the money.
Yeah. And so I just think that that's really important what you said around the scholarships, because I think that there's a real tendency to undercharge for nonprofit coaches and consultants, especially when we're just getting started. And so this is a perfect example around not doing that, or leading at a price you think is scary and seeing how people bite at that, because here you are with more members than ever at your higher price point. You just had one of your most successful launches ever at your highest price point, which is, I think, where we want to go next. So one of the things, oh, go ahead.
Real quick, I think it's also important for all of us as
a collective,
as all nonprofit consultants. If somebody is charging $39 and somebody is charging $1,000, well, like, that discrepancy is so hard. And I think we have this headwind of constantly trying to remind the nonprofit sector that we are people too, and we deserve to be compensated for our time. And that is that's something that we have to do together.
Totally. High tides, baby.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so launching, I think, as we alluded to at the beginning, memberships, courses, all these one-to-many ideas sound super sexy and perhaps quote unquote easy on paper. And then you go and execute them. And the launching part, the visibility part, which is something you're also really excellent at, is the marketing part, is a lot more challenging than I think people realize. It's a lot more work than people realize. Yeah. Can you speak a little bit to the evolution of your launch strategies or schedules? I think you've really honed in on a rhythm that works. And I think we would all really appreciate diving into that a little bit more.
Yeah, okay, I'll get real nerdy on this. So systems automation, my jam. So not only is that something I like to teach with nonprofits, but I also like teaching it, or I walk the walk. I do what I teach. I always test things that I do before I teach them. So the rhythm that I have gotten in is I have several freebies or lead magnets, and those lead magnets then lead to something else. I'm sure there's a technical, but like another thing that is, whether that's a course or not a course, but a workshop or a presentation, something that people can see me live and kind of interact with me. I have a 5-day productivity challenge, which is also free, but it gives you a chance to kind of see how I work, what my style is. And the way that time out. Last year, I decided that I was going to invest in Facebook ads so that I could reach a broader audience. And the method that I learned is that you have, a lead magnet. That lead magnet then has on the back end what is it called?
Like a tripwire?
Tripwire, thank you. I was thinking barbed wire, and I was like, that's not it. different.
So to be clear, that's because we all don't know that term ourselves. Yes. The idea is it's like a small price point, easy, yes, getting people to start spending money with you and getting to know you better. Is that a fair description of what you're talking about?
That is totally fair. And what I was actually doing is I was charging for these little workshop, but the workshop was what I was sending the ads to. And so I was trying the method of getting people to buy something small, then they would buy something larger. And what I found is nonprofits were not doing that. So I was getting, I was spending thousands of dollars on Facebook ads and getting 20 people on a workshop. So I was not making the money back. I will be full disclosure. I spent over $10,000 on Facebook ads last year, and I did not make that back. So scrap that real quick. And so what I do now is I spend a lot of time just just like we teach our nonprofit folks to have conversations, nurture, show up. So that's a lot of my marketing, is just showing up, being me, teaching, whether it's on social media or inside my emails. And then also I have a couple of freebies that are just out there. So whether they're at the end of my blogs or podcasts or, whatever, they're just out there. So I do have quite a few people coming through. And then maybe once a quarter, I do a big webinar. And I speak on, this last one that I did was delegating. It's free. I do a ton of promotion around it. And then from there, I sell productive executive directors. So I would say like the entire launch schedule is 6 or 7 weeks. If you really think about like from start to finish, all the promotion, all the warm up, the ramp up, and then actually selling and having conversations. But I'm selling and having conversations all the time. I send out weekly emails. I do bi-weekly podcasts. I'm constantly providing free information, but I really try to have a conversation with my audience.
So you mentioned the funnel and the process of how you're getting people on your list, in your audience, in your world, right? And I know because we're friends and we just talked through a lot of your launch, it was super successful. But you also mentioned that some people had been lurking around for quite some time. Do you have any insights into the length of time it can take to convert a nonprofit organization from introduction to you to actually joining your program or making a purchase?
Yeah, I think I had somebody join who came onto my list in February of 2020, which, holy moly, that was so long ago. I was like, hey, I've been looking at your email for a long time. And then I had a couple people to join just like right away, and I have nonprofit be like, hey, I really do want to do this right now, but it's just not in the budget. I'm going to save up for next year, or the next launch, or keep me posted. And, it can take some organizations can, I think the scarcity mindset plays into this. Some will make a decision just like, yep, this seems like the right thing that I need. And some really need to hear, how I teach, or see, what I have to offer. Or sometimes I probably just give them all the information they need because I offer so much free resources, and they don't actually need me anymore. But another thing that I do kind of on the backside of my business is I have a lot of automations that are happening in the background. So if an organization comes in on like a stewardship side, or a stewardship theme, then I have a general welcome series that goes out, which I know welcome series are kind of like, do they work? Do they not work? They work great for me. And then I have a couple of like mini sales series, which are like 3 emails over 10 days, where I offer I have a scale your stewardship workshop that has been great. And so I will sell that if I'm not like, given that I only open up the membership for Productive ED a couple times a year, I try to offer other products during that time, but I'm not creating those. They're just kind of on autopilot. I don't know. Hopefully you're going to talk about some evergreen models. They don't work for me and I appreciate, but like I do get a little attraction with just some of these random things that I do have on the back end of my business. But all of that then just, again, I just think about it, about different touch points, conversations that I'm having, but I have set up this automated email network in the back end to just have that, because I can't do it one-on-one.
One of the things I want to sort of bring us back, maybe a little full circle, which is we talked earlier about your alignment or your offer stack. And I want you to give us a little more details into, you've tried launching with different content.
Yeah.
Some, I think, because Jess and I know you so well, we would say some is more aligned with your offer and some may be more what you think organizations want to hear about, but that doesn't necessarily lead them to say yes. So can you talk about the different ways that, or the different offers that you've had in terms of your launch and how that has affected your results?
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I have thrown a lot of spaghetti at the wall. I am very grateful for the community that I have, because Jess, Cindy have been, such champions in my corner to be like, hey, Rach, don't do that. Yeah, don't. But just Cindy, your point to figuring out what does work for my audience, as much as I try to go to the shiny object, which I do think there's merit and there is things that work. And I think I've built in, I taught a lot of social media at the beginning, and I never wanted to be known about social media, but I did have a pretty great framework that could help nonprofits quickly get content out. So that's what I was teaching, but that's not where my heart was. And soon it just kind of wasn't really working. And so I just started doing, I guess what I didn't realize is I thought what I had to teach had to be really complex and, have all this strategy. And really, I could just teach these very simple methods that I'd literally received a message from an organization that was like, you changed my life. And it was time management. And I was like, what? And that's like one of my superpowers that I was like, I didn't know that was something that was so needed. And that's, I think, something that I've learned over and over again is I want to maybe teach these complex strategies, but really what's needed is things that are very, very simple and very basic, and bringing them back to, really aligning with what's in my zone of genius. And it's these, I talk about systems and processes, and, it all starts with figuring out how do you work? How do you do your best work? How do you function? How can we get more off your plate? Because I think we can all agree that every nonprofit does not have enough time, and so that's what I focus on. Everything, if you think of like a bike spoke or whatever, time is at the center.
I love it. Rach, I was going to say Jess. Rach, any sort of final thoughts as we wrap up the conversation that, anything that, words of advice, I would say, for anyone, you 5 years ago, 3 years ago, what would you want them to know listening to this and embarking on their journey?
Yeah, I mean, so we didn't speak a ton about the membership and the specific pieces about having a membership, but I think I've been successful because I have created systems around just identifying exactly what I'm going to do, when the calls are going to be, my exact offerings. And then, things like the reminder emails before the meeting is happening, and the onboarding process for a membership. That is something that I've worked really hard on, because I was definitely people would join the membership and it was like a fire hose. And so trying to really kind of drip the content out for the first couple of months so that they don't feel overwhelmed. They're already coming into this overwhelmed. So, my advice, well, be careful before you build a community. I'm going to be it is a ton of work. And because I am so system oriented, I think I've been able to make it work. But I'm not at home right now. I'm kind of have my out of office on, but I'm still checking in with the community. Like the community doesn't stop. One thing I'm trying to do this year, which by the time this airs, I will be bringing in guest coaches that are, I don't want this to continue to be the Rachel show. I want it to, and that's something that is important for consultants. Like a lot of times clients will want to work with you because they like your personality, they like your vibe. But for me, building a community, I don't want it to all be all about me. Like that's a lot of pressure to hold. And so bringing in additional people to support that, and be able to provide additional voices and experience. And all of these coaches have been through the program and they've been with me for years. You know, some are hit their 2-year mark. So, you know, with memberships, be ready to come. It's like getting a dog. Like you don't just get a dog for 5 minutes, you get a dog for life. So these nonprofits are in this, and you're building trust with them, and that means you have to show up consistently. You have to be there, be with them, and so, you know, don't. It's not a lighthearted thing. And honestly, many people have come to me and they're like, "How do you build a community?" I'm like, don't. As somebody who like, I love my community, I love it. But if you are not like really getting into like, how am I going to do this and how am I going to sustain it and how am I not going to burn myself out? Don't start it. Don't start it, because all of those things will happen. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, this community, I do this community because it makes my heart so happy. It is not what pays my bills. And that is a really, like, this is not a money maker. Maybe if I have 20,000 people in there, yeah, that would pay my bills, but that's not where I'm at. And it takes a long time. I mean, I'm at 85 members and it's taken me 3 years to get there.
Yet, not making you money yet.
Yeah.
Because you are well on your way.
And there's a little profit margin. It's not enough to pay a salary. I should be clear.
Totally. Well, Rachel, we are so honored for you to share the nitty-gritty, inside out confessions of running, starting, operating a membership for nonprofits. We're so grateful to have you as a guest on our show. Thank you for being here. Where can people who want to follow small stop strategies, learn more about productive ED, or even just if you're open to it, ask questions about starting a membership, where can they find you?
Yeah, shoot me a message on Instagram or on LinkedIn. I'm at Small Shop Strategies on Instagram, and Rachel, just my personal profile on LinkedIn. And yeah, but I'm an open book. I mean, I think that's something that I really, and I know something that you are, I'm so grateful that you are doing this podcast, because I think it is so important. There's so many misconceptions about being a nonprofit consultant, and that it's easy, or that there's ways to make, you know, just millions of dollars, just, you know, this income that just happens. And it's not that. And it's a lot of work, and we need to build each other up. And I'm grateful for what you are putting out into the world. Both of you, thank you so much. And for being mentors to me. You know, we all need our people. We all need our community. And so find your business bestie and lean on them.
Mwah.
Thank you again for listening to the Confessions podcast for nonprofit coaches and consultants. If you enjoyed today's episode, which I sure hope you did, you can show your support in one of 3 ways.
Number 1, post a screenshot of this episode to your Instagram stories or LinkedIn profile and tag Cindy and I so we can repost you.
Number 2, share this podcast with a fellow nonprofit coach or consultant.
And number 3, leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts so we can continue to grow and reach new listeners.
And of course, make sure you subscribe so you can get the latest and greatest interviews as they drop every Thursday.
And to our fellow nonprofit coaching and consulting friends, remember, we're an open book and here to answer your burning biz questions.
See you next time.